Sharia law must be banned because we have documented 143 cases where Sharia law was used instead of the Constitution of the United States in 22 states, Alex. So this is a major problem. And I'm so glad to see the country waking up. Elected officials are waking up. But we need to wake up within the local communities. This is exactly the importance of mobilizing chapters within the local community so you can know when there's a decision coming down by city council to build a major Islamic compound in your community with a mosque and a school and et cetera, et cetera.
And they're patrolling in their own cars. They're telling people what to, they're telling my wife to not be out at night.
Right, exactly. So you need to mobilize in your own community. You need to start your own group. As much as the Islamists are organized, we need to organize. And this does not mean just going and hearing a speaker, speak at the Republican Party meeting or attending a conference once a year. Mobilizing at the local level means monitoring what's happening in your community and running your own people to run for city council, school board, state delegates, and start taking back your community one position at a time. That's how we're going to be able to build the firewalls
that the Second Crusade
America.
is almost beginning, and how are the Muslims? Why are they responding so arrogantly before they snuck around, as the Quran tells them? Why are they so arrogant right now?
Because they feel so emboldened after 6 years of Obama, after 8 years of Obama and another 4 years of Biden, they feel emboldened. And look, even under the first Trump administration, they did not lower the kibosh on them that much. I mean, President Trump wasn't really, he was trying to figure out the water, test the waters in the first 4 years. They were very afraid of what happened, the Islamic reaction. And so, but things are changing. He is more empowered now, and the Islamists realize that the country is waking up. And actually, it's because they became so belligerent in your face that the country now is waking up. We had to get to this point in order for the country to wake up.
But nobody like Bridgett Gabriel has been out there for decades. I've been watching this lady since I've been on air, fighting these tyrants. Her family literally murdered in front of her by these people, and she is there steadfastly exposing them. And now we have Texas, the epicenter. You think it's Michigan? You think it's Minnesota? No, it's not. Texas, I live here. My wife, a month ago, was like 9:30 at night, our daughter gone to sleep. She went to HEB, she'd forgotten stuff, and she, a man in a beekeeper outfit, in his nightgown, that's the one where the beekeeper outfit. She's a good-looking woman, beautiful, everything, runs up and says, "You should not be outside at night. You should be with a man. I can't be answer for what happens to you," because under Islam, he can rape her. And she just got in the car and left. That's how bad this is, folks. And they're coming into shops and saying, 7-Elevens, you can't sell beer. And they're in public schools without permission, handing out Qurans and setting it all up in their own police departments. They are dominating us, and they're allied in the Red-Green Alliance with the left in Mondami. So I've got some newer clips of them up to all of this, but I want to just try to give her the floor. And I'm so glad we finally got her on. Bridgett Gabriel is a national security expert, the chairwoman of actforamerica.org, with a passion and vigor hailing directly from her profound experience during the opening salvos of the war in Lebanon. Used to be Christian, now it's Islamic mainly. She offers a poignant account of the remarkable upbringing. At 10 years of age, she survived a barrage of rockets exploding in her home, leaving her wounded and buried in a rubble. And it just goes on all she went through. So I hope she recaps that and then gives us her report. She's very nice. I'm going to try to sit back and give her the floor, and then I'll play some clips, have some of my questions, but just don't stop because I'm well known for interrupting. I want you to have the floor. You're an amazing woman, a beautiful soul. Thank you so much. This critical time as the West awakens to the grave threat that's already taken over much of Europe and the UK, and we've just got very little time to rally and I believe launch the new crusade. The Crusades were a response, for those who don't know, to 700 years of Islamic invasion, the capture of much of Eastern Europe, the takeover of the Byzantine Empire, the takeover of Spain itself, and hundreds of years to recapture those areas. So the Crusades was a defensive response, and I believe we've reached the tipping point, and I believe the new crusade is beginning. So thank you so much, Bridgett Gabriel. You've got the floor.
Thank you, Alex. I'm delighted to be with you. finally, I get to be with the famous, with the strong Alex Jones. Well, we are fighting, Alex. You and I are fighting. We are fighters. We don't go down. If America's going to go down, God forbid, it's not going to be under our watch, or we're going to be fighting going down until the last breath. And that's why I fight so hard. And I fight so hard. People tell me, where does your passion come from, Bridgett? You're so passionate about these issues. I am passionate about these issues because I understand what happens when people turn a blind eye to evil, thinking, it's not going to happen to me. Let them all fight each other over there. Who cares what happens over there? Well, you know what? Over there is now over here. My story started when I was born in Lebanon. Lebanon was the only majority Christian country in the Middle East. We were open-minded. We were fair. We were multicultural. We were so proud of our multiculturalism. We invited people into our country. Stars used to come vacation in Beirut. Yves Saint Laurent, Coco Chanel, all the big stars used to come on vacation. Sophia Loren, etc., Frank Sinatra. What we did was import people into our country that did not share our values, because we wanted to be nice. We wanted everybody to like us. We wanted everybody to come because, you know what? Do unto others what you want others to do unto you. We had something good going. We wanted to share it with other people. This is what happens when you import people who do not share your values. And this is what happens when you reflect your Western values on evil, backward people. In our case, we imported the Palestinians into Lebanon. The majority of them were Muslims. Once they got to Lebanon, they put their heads together with the Muslims in Lebanon and declared war on the Christians and started massacring us. My 9/11 happened to me in 1975 when the combined forces of Muslims and Palestinians blew up my home, bringing it down, burying me under the rubble wounded. I ended up in a hospital for 2.5 months and later ended up living in a bomb shelter underground in an 8x10 room without electricity, without water, and very little food. And that's where I lived for the next 7 years of my life, from the age of 10 till the age of 17. To get some food, we would crawl out under the bombs and dig out dandelions because it was the only greenery we had to eat. To get some water, we would crawl out under snipers' bullets because we were surrounded by Muslim snipers to a nearby spring to get some water. And every time we left our bomb shelter, we would say our last goodbyes because we did not know if we're going to come back alive or dead just to get a drink of water. I remember 2 years into our ordeal, and, my father, at the beginning of the war, he would say to me, all the big countries are going to see the massacres happening in Lebanon, how the Muslims are butchering the Christians, killing them. France is going to come. America is going to come. Australia is going to come. Canada is going to come. And we waited and nobody came. We became nothing more than a blurb on the evening news worldwide. But I remember 2-3 years into the war, I remember we got a word. One of our Christian militia friends stopped by and he said, Bridgett, I just want you to know we heard a lot of chatter on the radio and we believe we're going to be slaughtered tonight. And he said, if I don't see you tomorrow because we believe our town is going to fall, I wish you a merciful death. And he left. And I remember at the age of 13, Alex, putting on my Easter dress, my Sunday best, because I wanted to look pretty when I am dead, knowing that when they come to bury me, that when there will be no one to dress me up. I wanted to look pretty. This was my life. I remember sitting at the begging my mother as she combed my long black hair down to my hips and tied a white ribbon in my hair that matched the flowers in my dress. I remember begging her, I don't want to die. I'm only 13 years old. Please do something. And there was nothing my mother could say to me. And we sat in the corner of our bomb shelter. And my father opened up the Bible and started reading from Psalms. I shall walk into the valley of death and fear no evil, for thou art with me. And my parents said to me, when they come to slaughter us tonight, we will create a distraction. We want you to run towards Israel and don't look back. We lived a long life. You're a young child. You see, we lived 5 kilometers from the Israeli border. And we knew if we run to the Jews and beg for help, the Jews are not going to slaughter us because we had more shared values with them than we did with the Muslims. And thank God I didn't have to make that difficult decision that night, because that's the night when Israel came in physically into Lebanon and established the security zone and set up artillery bases around our town so we can continue surviving. And we survived until 1982, when Israel invaded Lebanon, working with the Christians, trying to help the Christians take back their democracy and kick out the radical Islamic element that had taken control of the country at that time. Because by that time, the Christians became the minority, the Muslims became the majority, and they were taking over the country. That's how we came out of the bomb shelter and back to rebuilding our lives. I ended up moving to Israel in 1984, becoming news anchor for World News in the Middle East. I wanted to understand why people do evil things to good people. And I remember I became news anchor for World News, covering the news events from 1984 till 1989. And I remember reading the news night after night. And that's when we started seeing a real rise of Islamic terrorism around the world. And as I reported the news, the name of the perpetrators were always the same: Ahmed, Muhammad, Hussein, Ali. The name of the victims were always Westerners, Christians and Jews: Terry Waite, Terry Anderson, Colonel Higgins, the Achille Lauro, the TWA flights, the Pan Am flights. And I can go on and on. As a matter of fact, in my first New York Times bestseller titled "Because They Hate," I have page after page after page listing all the terrorist attacks that were committed against the West, where America hit the snooze button and went back to sleep. And that's when I realized, Alex, that what I used to think was a regional problem between a majority Muslim Middle East trying to either kill or expel the minority Christians and Jews had become a worldwide problem. But the world was not paying attention. The world did not connect the dots. The world lacked imagination. And isn't this exactly what the 9/11 report said to us? We lacked imagination. It's not that we did not know how much Al-Qaeda hates us, or how much the Islamists hate us around the world, or how much the Iranians hate us. After all, we have never been faced with an enemy who not only tells us how much
it's
they
like,
hate
I
us.
use the analogy to interrupt. When they went to Galapagos Island 180 years ago or whatever, you had these giant dodo birds, bigger than turkeys, delicious. They never had a predator, so the sailors could come over and just hit them on the head. And pretty soon there were no dodo birds. Or here in Austin, I live on a golf course. The deer walk right up to you because there's no predators. Now, in the countryside, there's wolves and coyotes and people that they hide. And it's the same thing. People have just had it good so long. But I look at the Middle East, and so much science came from there. Like the Dark Ages began again. We had our own Dark Ages in Europe, but the Dark Ages started 1,400 years ago with Muhammad. And you look at all the science stuff, it just goes away. You look at what Persia was like. You look at what Lebanon was like. Anywhere, it was super advanced, not just in fashion and style, but in science and everything. And then it just, what triggered this barbarous Islamic, I guess you call it orthodoxy, to come back?
Well, 2 things happened in the world that triggered the Islamization to rise up the way it is today. Number 1, the ending of the Islamic Caliphate in 1924 by President Ataturk in Turkey.
So the fall of the Ottoman Empire. The fall of the Ottoman Empire.
The fall of the Ottoman Empire, this ended Islamic rule over the earth for over 1,000 years. And so the Muslims believed that Ataturk had a Jewish mother, that he was Jewish. He ended the Islamic Empire. He said women have a right to an education. Women were not allowed to wear a hijab. Women can get jobs. And he told the men, you're not allowed to grow a beard. He put the nail in the coffin of the Islamic Empire. By the time he ended it, Islam had ruled for over 1,000 years. So 5 years later in Egypt, a group of Muslim radicals sat together and said, how can the Islamic Empire fall? Islam is the supreme
and they
above
set up the
all
Muslim
religions
Brotherhood
on earth.
Muslim Brotherhood.
Right. About the Muslim Brotherhood. So 5 years later, those groups formed the Muslim Brotherhood. And, the Muslim Brotherhood, even by the 1950s, people thought, oh, they're not going to get anywhere. Islam is dead. Islam is over. The Islamic empire is never going to be resurrected. But two things happened in the Middle East that gave the Islamists the power and the money to explode worldwide. The number one thing that happened was in 1979, the Iranian Revolution, brought to you by a Democrat, Jimmy Carter, who put the Ayatollah Khomeini in power. If we are dealing with Iran, what we're facing today...
Well, let's not skip over Hitler, too. Let's not skip over Hitler. He gave support, too, early on.
He worked, that's right. That's a whole other thing. But that's right. So in 1979, the Ayatollah Khomeini came to power, which gave the Islamists the spiritual leadership and also the discovery of oil in the Middle East, which we discovered and we allowed them to nationalize. Now they have the money and they had the power and they exploded on the world stage. The West did not pay attention to them. And you brought a very important point about the Nazis working with Hitler. What most people don't realize, people think that the Yellow Star is a German invention. That was a Nazi invention. Oh, no. The Yellow Star was invented by Khalil al-Mutawakkil in Iraq, the second Khalif in the 900s, who invented the Yellow Star to identify the Jews as they walk down the street, because Jews under Islam are considered najis or filth. Najis is bodily fluids. Najis is bodily waste. It is like a dog. That dog.
For folks that don't know, under Islam, you either you convert or pay the tax. So they were under the tax.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So the Yellow Star was invented by the Islamists that Hitler borrowed 1,000 years later and implemented. And this is why the Mufti of Jerusalem worked very closely with Hitler. And actually, the Mufti of Jerusalem had a special brigade in the Nazi army where they were helping the Nazis with their genocide against the Jews. So when you hear about the Palestinians, today they hate the Jews, only because of the occupied territories. Bunch of baloney. This all goes back to Islam, the religious itself. That's where the hatred is coming from.
No, but I think you just went there. Sure, you've got globalists funding the Islamics and all that. But, and again, I'm not against Israel, but I'm critical when we need to be. So I'm not just like purely on the Muslims all day. I criticize our own government too and the Chinese government. I mean, not just Chinese people. But Israel being established, that also pissed off and supercharged the Islamicists. And I'm not saying Israel shouldn't exist, but I'm saying that was a big part of it too.
Well, you know what? No, actually, Alex, I disagree with you. This is only new. The Islamists did not need to recharge when they massacred 2 million Armenians in Turkey at the beginning of the century. 2 million Armenians.
No. Islam was mad that it was being... You're right. It launched its new attack before the Jews came along.
Same new. Butchering and massacring. By the time the Islamic Empire ended in 1924, Islam was responsible for the murder of over 100 million people. But
doesn't Israel, and I'm not saying Israel shouldn't exist, I'm saying, doesn't then Israel after 47 become a rallying point, though?
Yes, but all they need is an excuse. But then again, look at me. I'm Lebanese. So when they massacred the Lebanese Christians in 1975, we were Arabs. We spoke the Arabic language. We were Christians. We were not Jewish. And they massacred us the same way they did October 7th. They hanged men on crosses. They would cut a cross on a man's chest and nail him to a cross. They would cut his genitals. They split pregnant women's stomach.
By the way, Obama backed the Arab Spring. Obama backed the Arab Spring. And the takeover of Egypt, they blew up hundreds of churches, killed thousands in crucifixion. That was Obama. Is Obama the leader of the Muslim Brotherhood?
Obama worked very closely with the Muslim Brotherhood. He is the one who invited them to the White House. He made the top list, the Muslim Brotherhood Project for North America. The last page lists 29 front Islamic organizations set up in the United States for the destruction of the United States from within. Number one on the list is ISNA, Islamic Society for North America. Obama made them their advisors on Middle East policy. So we not only had the fox inside the watching the hen house, we had the fox, the Islamists inside the White House dictating policy in the ear of the president. And CAIR, the Council on American Islamic Relations, had over 350 visits to the White House when Obama was in power. He was working very closely with the Muslim Brotherhood. He was coordinating with them.
Let me just stop you right now. Let me just stop you right now because I'm quite the historian. I just want to say, like you say, your Arabic background, Lebanese. Look how beautiful and smart you are And imagine what the Middle East would be like if it was Christian. And just imagine all these beautiful women that are covered up in beekeeper suits. That has got to be painful for you because you're such a stunning woman, so smart, so beautiful. How painful is it all these women are enslaved?
Thank you. It is very sad that Muslim women are enslaved. You know, Christian women look like me, they act like me, they dress like me. Unfortunately, the Islamists, the Muslims, drove most of the Christians out of the Middle East. You talk about a genocide. There's a genocide by the Muslims against the minorities in the Middle East. But I look at the women in Iran, for example. I look at the oppressed women in the Middle East, and I feel sorry for them.
Look at Bridgett Gabriel. If you're a TV viewer or radio listeners, you miss out. Just a powerful, beautiful, smart woman. And then you look, in fact, she's Arab. You look at the Persian women, incredibly smart and beautiful. So much of our science technology came out of the Arabs and out of the Persians. Then how are they so backward? Well, if we put a cult like this in control, we'd be worse probably. I mean, this is Iran before the takeover of the Muslims in 79. I mean, happy, rich, smart people. And this is what happened when they didn't take stuff seriously, ladies and gentlemen. And so we better take this seriously here because the Muslims, when they hit 5-10%, they admit they stop acting friendly, they take over. And they all play friendly and we're not part of it. But no, this is the takeover. So perhaps, Bridgett Gabriel, you should talk about what he teaches Muhammad in the Quran, who he was, the steps of this deception. Now that the West is beginning to wake up, they're really trying to bully us back into submission with Madami and others, and where you think this is going. Because, again, with the parliamentary system particularly, you get 5% in Germany or Sweden or England, 10%. They're going to win every election because they can swing vote that. Because it's not 50-50 with the parliament, folks. That's how they keep winning. You know, Starmer with 18% of the vote. The Muslims at 8-9%, they rule your country. And now, like a beehive, they boiled out and are at our city councils, on the streets, bossing people around, getting my wife confronted. What are you doing out? You woman can't be out alone. And the guy was all obviously sexually attracted. She's a very beautiful woman. You know, and he was like, you shouldn't be here. I can't say you can't be protected. What he meant was under Islam, I can rape you because you're out here without a man. These people are sick, folks. And I can play you imams on Palestinian TV, women and men saying, when we conquer Israel or any other country, we can put their kids into slavery because they can sell you drugs under Islam because you are an infidel. You're a kafir. Explain that to people.
Exactly. And I learned this lesson when I was laying in a hospital bed at the age of 10 when I was wounded, going from one surgery to another. I would ask my father, why did they do this to us? And my father would tell me, because we are Christians, they consider us infidels and they want to kill us. So I learned since I was a 10-year-old little girl that I am wanted dead simply because I was born into the Christian faith and lived in a Christian town. We have a saying in the Middle East, أولاً يأتي السبت وبعده الأحد. First comes Saturday, then comes Sunday, meaning first we kill the Jews, then we come for the Christians. So right now, all throughout the West, we have imported or allowed to come in as refugees or break the law, like what happened under Biden in the last 4 years in the United States. People coming into our country, we do not know what hellhole they came from. They are now coming in big numbers. And once they have the numbers, they already have the numbers. I mean, look at England, look at London, look at in England, every major city has a Muslim mayor. So they democratically elected themselves into the government. They multiply, they have a lot of children. And the West, you know, we have the disease to please. We want people to like us. So our elected officials lose their spine because they do not want to be criticized when they speak about radical Islamic infiltration or the infiltration of a culture that does not share our values. And we're seeing the same thing happen in America today. So Europe is at stage 4 cancer. It's very difficult to turn the ship around. America is at stage 2 cancer. We can still fight it. And most people were distracted when Mamdani won election. Oh my gosh, the whole country was talking about Mamdani running. Mamdani's going to win. We're going to have a Muslim mayor for New York City. Do you know that day, 42 Muslim candidates won elections in the United States on that day?
I did.
Mamdani was 1 out of 6. Mamdani was one out of 6 mayors. They won 20 city council positions, 6 school board members, 2 state legislatures, 2 federal judges, and I can go on and on. 76 Muslims ran for office on that day, and 42 got elected. Most Americans have no idea.